Hi, everybody. I'm super excited to share someone with you today, Darius J. Wright, who is a profound, somewhat, at least new to us, relatively new voice on the scene, but is speaking about the nature of reality in a way that I had not heard broken down this way before. And as you know, I've done many years of Hermetic study and so on and so forth. But the way Darius sees reality when he has his out-of-body experiences is something far beyond, I think, what most of us have ever encountered. So let's go to Darius.
Hey, thanks for having me on the show, Regina.
Hey, it was good to see you. I saw you in the flesh at Gaia not that long ago, but we could only get partway into the conversation, which is why we're back doing this.
Yeah, it's this one's going to allow for a lot of deeper topics.
So. I think so. So First of all, what I want to do is, because there are so many shows out there right now with you talking about your background when you were a little kid, you were getting out of your body, it wasn't very manageable, it was actually pretty horrible, kept mounting up to the point where you were just sick of the feeling of dying. To be able to get out of this body and out of this construct. But once you were able to calm the fear, you were able to go out and really start kind of tripping through reality and the constructs of the universe in a way that I really haven't heard of before. So let's go ahead and start, first of all, with some basic structure, which is why an out of body is different from astral traveling and how it is similar to near death, just to set the template of what you do up for everybody.
First and foremost, the out of body state is an astral projection. The astral projection, it needs to be very, very clearly understood what we're doing here. The out of body state is no different from a near death. So when the soul leaves the body, the soul is leaving the body. The body's dipping down to a certain state where it's a shutdown process. Now, when somebody has a near death experience, just so people that are listening could see the comical wording that's being used. If someone has a near-death experience and they cross over to the other side, you don't say that they've astral projected to the other side. Okay. Same thing applies with the out-of-body state. When you fully leave and exit the body, you are doing just that. Just so happens to be as well, it's not just my word for it. There's David, testimonial of doing the out-of-body state. And he has had a near-death experience because he has a heart issue. And he has done the out-of-body state, and it's the same thing. So what astral projection is this is a made up word for, basically made up terminology for dimensional space access. And dimensional space access is literally just that. It's your thought forms create a dimensional space in your field. So when you come out, you will experience your thought forms, etc. That's what people are calling the astral. Okay. But it's not the out of body state. And when you lump it into that, it tends to be put in this category of not the actual accuracy of what we're actually doing here.
Yes, that's good. Thank you. Okay. People watching this, most of them have heard quite a bit about out of body, near death, and astral traveling. That's why I wanted you to really kind of clear that up, because it gets kind of sloppy and fuzzy between the three in some people's vernacular. So you got to a point where you conquered the fear. First, you would just look around the room. Then you were able to start stepping further and further. And with the assistance of a guide who's been very, very close to you. Tell us a little bit about the guide that initially took you out into beyond this construct, so you could see what kind of the universe, the construct, the realms and dimensions are made of. What was that first experience like, and how'd you get there?
This was back at 16. Now, when I was having these experiences, I was not totally aware of that which I was seeing, similar to or akin to someone that had one near-death experience, and they access a whole bunch of stuff, and they try to come back, and I can only tell you the feeling. Mm-hmm. But way back then, there was a being, her name was Celeste, that was showing me things at 16 years old. She was showing me the creation of what you see there, the image, the construct. She was showing me how time works, dimensional spaces, the basically everything from the start. Now, I didn't know how to articulate this at all, because it was one experience, but it wasn't until I learned how to get absolute control over this state at will through practice, where I was revisiting these places over and over and over again, being shown the realms, the 12 realms within this construct, also being taken out of the construct as well, seeing my deceased uncle Bob, and things taking place in real time here as well. Once you come out, you are accessing here at first. You're seeing what's taking place here. You could see if someone is doing something here, you could see it taking place in real time. If someone writes something on the whiteboard, you could see that. But you could also access further out. And this is, you could say, accessing the true universe that has always been here.
And one thing you that I find fascinating that we're going to go into is you're actually able to see the thought forms, both individually and collectively, that are forming. And this is through our own belief, imagination, desire, etc., whatever it is that propels us to have a clear thought and then reinforce it over and over again, so it starts becoming something more solid or more concretized into a reality. You're able to actually see that. You can encounter it. You've walked through people's thought forms. This is trippy. I love what you've done and that you're able to articulate this to us.
Once you're out, yes, you are tapping into, you could say, it is thought forms of yourself, other individuals as well. This is where you step into integrity, understand unconditional love, and potential time events as well. So what's the difference between a material object here and a thought form? Now, you would think they're different, but they're really not, because one is in a state that your physical body could touch because your physical body's at a certain frequency, same with the material objects here in a certain frequency, so therefore you get to interact with it. Now, thought forms are just as physical and just as real as what you're experiencing now, because once you come out of the body, you're accessing, it's just a change of the dial of frequency. And those thoughts, those dimensional spaces are physical things. You could step into it, experience it, touch it, taste it, feel it. It's all there. And when you think of something, it's going out into what you would call is the ether, the field of things. And this is where it goes into the collective field of information that people could tap into. They get intuitive downloads because they're tapping into the source of all things that are out there. This is why everything in your life is recorded. Everything is known. Everybody is naked on the other side, not necessarily as a bad thing, but it's all there. These things don't just disappear. So
that's very important for us to know. And it makes a lot of people flesh with embarrassment, guilt, shame, etc. But the reality is we're all in this. We're all humans. We all have thoughts that are high, thoughts that are low, thoughts that are lustful and greedy and kind and benevolent. And I think first to just drop the judgment around all of that experience of being human. You've come back very heavily on the side of non-judgment. So maybe just flesh that out a bit for us so we don't have to feel embarrassed.
You could judge another soul on the other side, for instance. You can, because your consciousness dictates the universe. You have ultimate expression of freedom with no limitation once you're out of the body. So, but the core frequency, the base block that creates all things, is in a state of always unconditional love. This is the thing that has been perverse in the New Age movement, to think that unconditional love is a passive nature, but it's the very force that creates everything. When you are in that state in your soul, you are in the frequency of one creation. You are in the frequency that rebuilds everything. Even if you're in a state physically here, because your soul's still connected, your soul's in the body, that frequency of love, the true frequency, not distortion, will start to decode the body and the cells within the body. And you could say heal the body because it's in a certain state. It's just frequency stuff. This is as simple as experiments that have been done with rice. You stick rice in a jar, another rice in a jar. You say, I love you to the rice on the right-hand side with water in the jar. It doesn't decay. But you say, I hate you and stuff to the other side, it starts to decay and basically get mold. And this has been proven. So the frequency, once you're out, and I want to give a lot of context to this so it's understood. Once you step out of integrity and unconditional love, You step out of the core essence of who you are. And this is what causes the rapid decline. And you could say the physical attributes of the body, the soul getting what they call devolved because you're falling out of love, which is then falling out of love into a demon, right? What people consider demons are basically a soul that has fallen so far out of love. So right now, when people think of evil things, people could be face to face with a relative, their family member, and they could be called a demon just because they fell out of love, not necessarily that they can't return back to it. So once you are in that state, there is no judgment, because in that state, everything's in a place of unconditional love, and you cannot have unconditional love with a judgment. And that is the core frequency of things, which manifests and creates all things.
So that brings us to the big question. People are going through really stressful times right now. The planet's going through stressful times, and arguably probably the solar system is going through stressful times. And so it does create a certain amount of division and creates a lot of judgment. And this is something that I've talked about before. Once we start separating ourselves in judgment, and say virtually most everybody is doing this in one way or another, when you step out of this realm, what does that look like with a collective of chaos and judgment going on for the earth?
Well, everything is chaotic here because just what you just said, but also a lot of people think, and if you go back what I said about thoughts, a lot of people think that what they think of just vanish. It just disappears. It doesn't. It's still there. This is where you go into deep things that are hidden, are always presented to you in the foreground. Even with near-death experienced people, when they die, all of their back things that they put in the back of their head are all presented in the forefront, because it all has to be dealt with and seen. There's no walking away from yourself ever. Even when you cross over, you always face yourself, and this is part of the whole judgment thing. It's, you're judging yourself, etc. Once you see what's taking place here in realm one, the earthly realm, it is very, you could say, chaotic as such, because you're seeing all of it physically and also thought forms in other people's field as well. This is what they use as well to get people stuck in a loop, in a cycle, constantly of focusing on the wrong things, typically fear-based narratives, fear-based things, because that collective thought starts to project a certain timeline. And with more energy projected into that timeline, it's basically gets more solidified.
You're able to see somewhat, time is obviously a very relative thing, but you're able to see timelines play out because you're seeing the saturation of thought forms that take on a certain amount of direction and mass. And it helps you to see what's shaping up with some accuracy in the future. And you've had this happen in very small ways when you've been out of your body watching something, and boom, you think something, and wow, it's happening the next moment. But I don't want to get there just yet. I want to get into the realms, because this is the way you see it is certainly it's laid out a little differently, numbered a little differently than some of the classic systems, but they go to a lot of the same places. So let's start. We've talked about Earth realm, which is where we are, where we live, what we can sense, touch, and taste and feel. Let's go to the next realm, realm 2, because some people watching this are interfacing with other realms, or feel they are anyway.
I also want to say this: a lot of the education around spirituality or New Age, I call it New Age propaganda anymore, because you could say they've infiltrated that level of understanding of what things are, and not really giving people a solid foundation of the core truths. This is where you'll go into a very intelligent tactic to tell somebody there are many different truths and many different things. And that is true to a certain degree. This is perceptional truths based off experience, and that changes moment to moment. Right now, your perception has changed from the beginning of this call, whether if it's 1%, a fraction of percent, 50%. So therefore, your truth has changed. There are core truths within the construct of this creation that will never change regardless of how you feel, perceptions, or anything, because they are the foundation. And understanding the foundation, then you could start to build upon that of, okay, where does this line up? Where does that not line up based off what you're getting, and see where things fall and things don't fall.
Yes, and in classic times, they were said to be noble truths. And you're talking about truths that are the platform of reality. And one you spoke of as the ultimate is universal, unconditional love.
Yes.
Can you give us a couple of other platform truths that our reality is absolutely based on?
The soul cannot be measured. You can't have unconditional love with the judgment. You can't have ultimate expression of freedom with a limitation, and your consciousness is the dictator of the universe. You live on forever. The soul is eternal. These are unchangeable truths that your soul, who you are, you create on the other side with your will and your spoken word. What you speak as frequency manifests and creates what your soul desires to experience. These are unchangeable things. These are the core unchangeable that will forever be constant.
Which really brings home the notion of being very careful of what we're going to dedicate our mind space and emotional space and words to. Doing much more. Human beings are very undisciplined in that way. And I think in part because we haven't been taught the importance of having clear thoughts, uplifted thoughts, of using our words wisely. So I think for everybody watching this, you've certainly brought home the notion that those things exist and they don't go away. Those things we say, those things we see.
Well, take a look at this. It's also in the language, what you just said as well. It's called spelling for a reason. So it's not necessarily, now your intent, your soul's intent could override these things. But typically people aren't aware of this. So they end up saying things unaware when they want to end up creating something or manifesting something or putting that energy into something. For instance, if I were to say to you, Regina, I hope you get well, you would automatically, and individuals hearing this would automatically think that I have done something good to you when I actually didn't. I actually cursed you, and you didn't even, people wouldn't even realize it, because
with the word hope,
I hope you get well means that you must be unwell to get well first. Yes. So a better way to phrase commanding things to end up changing the frequency within individuals and directing the energy is, Regina, well, you are. And this is where you start to go back into the history of the text, the Bible, things like that, all throughout history, where the original language all sounded like riddles, or they all had certain things missing because their words, the spoken word, was done in intent. It was intentional. It was very directed and intentional. Not much was being, you could say, when they were commanding and programming certain things within their cells and other people's cells in the body. That's what they were doing, because what you speak will decode and program the body to believe and start doing things in a certain way, whether if that's, this is as simple as the placebo effect.
Yes. And thank you for making it very clear how important this is. This is the nature of reality, these very thoughts we have. We can't run away. It's not just, you are what you eat and you become what you think. This is real. And I love the fact that you really bring that home first with everybody. Thank you. Now, we see the earth as we each experience it as we experience it through our own fields of perceptions. But now let's go to the next realm. And within each realm are multi-dimensions as well, including Earth itself, the Earth that we're in. So let's look at realm 2.
Okay, so in order to understand the realms, first and foremost, to give context to this so people understand it, is you need to understand that the construct has multiple layers to it. And these are templates. You could say, games. Okay. So certain realms are all different templates, different experiences. So this is where you get the earthly realm, the four corners earthly realm is a template of experience within the construct. Realm 2 is what people will call the galactics. galactic races, beings, realm 2. It's a different template, but still within the entirety of the construct. You go up to realm 3. These are different templates. Where do you think that the history, the lost civilization of what people will call Atlantis or Anunnaki beings or Egypt, the structures are still here, but where did those beings go? Because this was, you could say, reset in a sense. This is where you go into realm 3. Still within here.
Many people feel as though they're speaking with beings who are from realm 2, galactic beings. And how would you explain the interaction of the beings that exist in these different realms between themselves and other realms, like galactic beings and earth people, for example?
The bodies that they're using, or you could say soul, body, etc., they're physical. Like I said, they're just a different frequency that are just outside of the perception of you. This is where you get the crafts and what people call ships that they use, which are dimensional space or frequency-based craft into dimensional space. This is where you'll get certain technologies that they use. They are able to shift in and out of sight. Sometimes you see them and then you don't.
Yeah, just our frequency band, our ability to see. We only have a certain array of frequencies we can see with the naked eye, and it's just phased off in density. Yeah.
That's a good point as well. It's something that I brought up as well, because a lot of people may think that this is way too complicated to understand, but we can only see a very limited strand of the light spectrum, what you just said as well. Once that starts to open up, you start to see all of it again. It's not necessarily new. It's what has always been here, just outside of the decoders of your brain to decode that information that has always been present this entire time.
Is it something just as we would expect? Some people have the perception to be able to see into the other realms more easily than someone else. It's just a matter of opening up the ability, and you're able to see into all of these. And this doesn't even get into other constructs, other types of beings and places. So now from galactic then, and I think most of us understand what that means and where the ship activities and everything happen, we go to level 3. And did you say a little bit ago that that's where these, what we would consider ancient civilizations, still exist?
I'm just going to use the terminology here that other people use so they could understand it. What people would consider Anunnaki beings, the Egypt, Atlantis, stuff like that. That's where you could say the template of that resided from, is that realm. This is where you'll go. Where do they all go?
Also, what about the notion that a lot of those beings, now this is coming from a personal standpoint of mixing it up with a lot of different people, with a lot of different ideas and experiences, that those beings from those realms are also us. Some of us, many, were part of these civilizations.
Yes.
There's a lingering bridge or aspect, I would think, between ourselves and that dimension just because of our experience there in the past. I'm guessing, but you tell me, what happens if you've been a part of Egyptian and Atlantean society, and that exists in the third realm, but you're in a human body, you're a human right now, Earth realm?
I'm going to go 2 ways with this, but they all are correct. What you're saying is yes. Down this path is yes. So people have affiliation or are affiliated with certain races. This is where you get certain kingdoms. And this is where you get certain lineages and lines that souls come through within this construct. But in the entirety, we're connected to it all, like when you go way out. But so it's a yes.
Those who remember or go into past life experiences, Egypt, Atlantis, they're accessing what still exists in the third realm, the template for what exists in the third realm.
Yeah. So when people go back into past life experiences or past lives, they're remembering experiences that they've had within this construct. Yes. There's a total of 12 and well, actually supposed to be 13. And this is where it goes into everything. If you have the eyes to see, you'll see it very clearly. Truth always has to be shown, not necessarily that it has to be said as truth in that way, but it's all presented here. I want to write something down, if you don't mind, on the whiteboard to show you something. Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Go for
Give me 1 second. Even with the 12 realms, once you start to really understand this and break it down properly, Yeah, realm one, we are the center. This is where you go into the, like I said, a lot of the texts are accurate, but riddled with distortion in order to control individuals here, limit the information, limit the truth. So therefore, they are constantly in fear, and that's the number one way to have dominion over a soul is fear. You have total control over their self-expression, what they desire to do, and you limit them in a box. Realm one is the center, yes, where we are. The earthly realm is the center of all creation within the construct only, because there are other places outside of the construct, other constructs, etc., like on God's shelves. But for this one in particular, realm one is the center of it all. This is where you get all the histories here too. You get all the history from the fall, the heaven on earth, all of the races here, because it was all here in realm one. And then, because at a point in time, everything did come here. This is where you get the reset, the flood, etc. So this is also where you get the DNA, or what people call the double helix DNA, or supposed to be 12, originally 13 strands of DNA, because the physical bodies are perfectly designed off of the construct, the 13. This is where the bodies have been so distorted and shut off, because our true capacity is to access all this information very naturally and very effectively. And it was part of the old information as well. This is where you get the chakra system, 12 stargates, etc. It's even shown to you in as simple as a clock. So the clock is also mirrored off of the construct as well, the 12, 13 realms. Now we have 12 realms. Now the 13th, you would say, is the hidden. It's a hidden thing. This is also where you go into the Egypt and Atlantis time, where it's the hidden. Okay. It's the 13th realm is a hidden realm, but it's always been here and it's always been present. So when you draw a clock, or you go to a clock and you go 12 and 1, okay? When you circle 12 and 1, it's 13.
Mm-hmm.
You circle 11 and 2, it's 13. Okay, it's 10 and 3, that's 13. 9 and 4, well, that's 13. You go to 7 or 8 and 6, that's 13. And that 13.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You see?
Yeah.
So it's understanding that all of it, from the very clock, from the very construct with the 12, the 13, the very thing with the 13 DNA strand within the brain, all of it is, we're multidimensional beings. All of it is always, the foundation of this construct is always present. It's all mirrored.
All of that dimensional information is present at the same time. And so either we can or cannot tune into it. I mean, as individuals, we do or don't have the ability to tune into it, depending on our own development. But nonetheless, it affects us, whether we can see in, whether we understand it. It's affecting us.
When I talk about 12 and the 13 realms,
mm-hmm.
It's mirrored off of everything, from the very physical body that you have, from the very clock that we have, from the very true map that we have, the land masses here, etc., to also the construct creation, what we're living in now. Mm-hmm. Everything as above, so below, as within, so without.
I hope you're enjoying this video, because if you are, there are dozens more like it on my site, all supported by people like you. So if you'd like to keep this work rolling in and join our community, just click on the Patreon button at reginameredith.com. That also gives you access to insider commentary, my live book club, and other live events with special guests. So join in. Thanks.
So now let's move on to realm 4, which is interesting because it has other components that are still with us, but we don't feel we can access within realm 1. Realm 4, the Eden realm. Tell us a bit about it.
This is another distortion where you get the Garden of Eden, or the Adam and Eve, like the two, whatever. That's part of the distorted layers and stuff. But this is where you'll get that realm, the realm of Eden, the Garden of Eden. It's a very, you could say, almost like heaven, because it's another version of heaven, which is realm 5. And I've only ever been to that realm one time, as I was showing it, is showing the tree of life there.
The sustainable plenum of life, where everything is available, everything's in balance, and it's sustained, self-sustaining, because it is in balance. So what we would see as Eden is never-ending supply of exactly what we need when we need it. It's there. So we have our different versions of it depending on what our religious backgrounds are, but I think we all get the idea. Then heaven, we also have very different ideas about heaven, and I would like you to go into this a bit more, because so many books and renderings of heaven have been had, and it's held like a dangling carrot before you, depending on what your religious background is. So go ahead and tell us what you experienced in heaven, realm 5.
What you would end up seeing a lot in depictions of cathedrals and stuff, that's what heaven looks like. It's actually very accurate to that. People think that heaven, there's a guy sitting on a throne, and he's the one that is going to judge you or send you to heaven. Understand that heaven is just realm 5. It's actually not even the top level of this construct yet. You see, not yet. It's just not the top level. So it's not, heaven is just a very, more of what you would see, like I said before, in the cathedrals. But something that's interesting within heaven as well is they still use forms of what people call tablets. This is where you'll go back into the ancient stuff as well, where the tablets and stuff like that, information on the tablets, because they're using the connecting to the information that's within the whole entirety of the ether, the field. And they're bringing that in through information through a tablet. This is where you also they document certain information. Yeah, the cathedrals.
So when you talk of a cathedral, we often think of a place that capitalizes on and captures more sacred energy, or a type of energetic flow that feels more sacred and more elevated. So when you go into that realm, does it have that elevated sacred feeling to it? And then, since it sounds like it's imbued with the Hall of Records is part of that as well.
Yes.
So you can meet with your information as well.
Yes, I'm actually going to share an image. So what you see here in this image is basically 2 of these are what heaven looks like. Not accuracy, but I've tried to do the best images and stuff here to depict it. But it's very much what you see. It's people in robes. It's very pleasurable. It's very, in terms of like, just everything is relaxed. It's very heavenly. You have all of the earthly pleasures of like the environment of Earth itself, the earthly realm, but it's all there. But not only that, it's what you are thinking. You just create things. You're constantly in a state of creation. Like I said before, your thought forms are creating spaces. Like, it's all there as well in this space. It's many different dimensions. Yes.
So would it be that you're creating at the speed of thought because you don't have the resistance of the density of the first realm?
Yes. Yeah. So this is part of the limitation here. When you end up going down through you could say the layers, is you have less instant access like that. But once you're out and you're seeing these spaces and you're back in these places, your ability to just create things, there's no lag in what you want to experience.
It doesn't have to drop into physicality, which there's so many moving parts for something to concretize in our reality. It's like, that's so beautiful.
Because here we're in you could say, constraint of time. Mm-hmm. And time is, you could say, the enslavement of the physical body, because it's stuck in a loop of time. But once you come out, you're outside of the bounds of that, because time is not linear. It's more, you could go back into it. You could forward in potentials. You would call it, if you want to put a a structure on time of either a straight line, it would be more like a circle this time, where you could just sort of like a clock. What happens here within realm one, just like if your toe was infected, it would affect affect the entire body. This construct is no different. So when one part is affected, then all of the connecting chains within the entirety of the construct is also affected as well.
We were talking as above, so below a little bit ago. So are you saying there have been conflicts on scales at these other realm levels that trickled down to control within the human level that has this time constraint, but it's affecting all realm, the control that's occurred as a result of kind of, as you say, war in the heavens, so to speak, or the cosmos. Okay. What are you saying there?
I'd never want to put people in a state of fear or disempowerment, because nothing that I say is of that sort. There's nothing that could harm you, the soul, unless you believe it to be so, and you would be creating those dimensional spaces for that to be so anyways, for a temporary experience.
Yes.
When we start with the layers 12 down to 1, this is where you'll get the opening within 12 and heading all the way down to realm 1, which was, this construct was the unexperienced on the other side, outside of it completely. This was you could say, a curation to experience that which we are not on the other side. So experiencing the limitations through the confines of the physical body, because the soul is still not limited, because the physical body is part of the veil, breaking past the veil to see and realize, standing up again, being reborn again, realizing that there's nothing that could touch you. But the physical body created these self-imposed limitations in the construct, because the body's designed, and through the 13, etc., the self-limiting aspects of what the physical body could do within here. Realm 1 is the most extreme within here. That's clear. This is where we're going to go into a direction where people are going to probably misinterpret what I'm saying, but I'll try to make it very clear. This is where you'll go, you could say, the freeing of souls here. Because once you're in realm 1, and if you could convince a soul and make it believe, due to its own infinite power of its will and its spoken word, to create something, create a loop for itself, well, then you will create a self-imprisoned soul within that cycle.
Is this something that is self-perpetuated and self-created by our own thought forms? Or is this something... Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, yeah. Because like I said before, nothing could control or entrap you, the soul, unless you believe it to be so. Your soul, each individual soul, is the ultimate authority, and it has no limitations of that which it could create and experience. That is including if you believe that you could be looped and cycled, therefore you will create that to be so. So once you have realm 1 with all of the fear and the limitations of trying to make souls believe in the state of forgetfulness here of, oh, this is going to entrap you and stuff like that, this realm has put souls in such a state of fear where they are creating these self-imposed prisons. This is where you also go into the narrative where people, they know and understand that there's a level of beings that are assisting in the great awakening process and freeing this realm from the self-imposed limitations of fear and imprisonment that the soul is creating, and each soul is creating as well, because it can break free from it.
Quick question: is that a distortion, or is that something that has been a chosen type of path of experience collectively?
Well, this whole construct was an agreed upon experience, but this is where you go into this. It takes a certain level of breaking this down and understanding, so it doesn't get necessarily confused and derailed into this direction, because yes, this is all agreed upon. But when you end up creating a space to experience that which we are not, the extremes, you also have the unforeseen events, things that haven't been foreseen to go in certain directions. And this is where you'll get things playing out that have been so extreme here that no, certain individuals are not experiencing that which they've agreed to. This is where there is a massive front from the other side to awaken souls here, to wake up to who and what they really are, to shatter all of these self-imposed prisons, the mind, putting you in a box of limitation. Because even when you do cross over or death, if you have a lot of fear, you will see this through all near-death experience. And even myself, took me years to get over it, where you will experience your fears playing out temporarily or put yourself in these self-imposed prisons until you realize, come to a state like I have, where I'm like, I don't care anymore. Like, take my soul because you can't necessarily kill my soul. But I just got to that state where I'm like, I just don't care. And then, bam, everything opened up. Access to the 12 realms, access to outside of the construct again, multiple times, doing this over and over and over again, because I pierced through the number one thing that is blocking every single soul here from truly accessing things is the fear.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So let's continue on and kind of do the next slices of the realms. And again, each realm is multidimensional and has experiences, an array of experiences within that realm. So now we've moved past the sixth realm, which, as you talked about, some of the entities that would show up as 666. So now we've moved past 6 and we're going to 7.
When you go up to realm 7, this is where you're gaining a lot of what people call the angelics. Think of numbers. It's all symbolic to here as well. So 7 is part of the angel numbers. It's angelic realm. This is where you'll get the different races of angels. You have the seraphims, you have the angels, you have what people call fallen. It's not necessarily, I mean, some of them have come here. This is where you'll see a lot of the original angels have projected their consciousness into physical bodies here to help assist.
Yes, a lot of that going on right now.
A lot of the original bodies as well. Some of what people call the giant bodies, the giant angels, are in locations within Antarctica and stasis. Some of them are completely no longer physically intact. Some of them are. Some of the statues that people think are statues are actually physically the real thing. You see? Like
in suspended animation. Yeah, that's very cool.
Realm 7 is the angelic realm, what people are considering or consider angels, but there's many different races of the angels. Yeah.
So let's go to 8.
Won't share that just yet.
Okay.
That one will skip over.
Okay. Let's go to 9.
This is where you'll actually start to get more of the gods. Realm 9. You would consider heaven part of the gods, realm 5. But this is where you're getting like where people are depicting the man in the throne type, even though that's not the case. But you will also get within this space as well, trying to find words so people could line this up properly based off of what they've watched in movies, like Asgard and stuff like that, like the gods.
So almost more like those with great creative force, the creator gods versus say the angels, Gabriel and Archangel Michael and so forth. And just below, above that are the ones who create realities and realms and so forth. Are you saying it's that realm?
So it's not necessarily, well, yes, you could say it's a template. I'll share this image here. Obviously, I'll share it with you so you could see. But this image here is basically showing you more of what I'm talking about of the gods. You could say the realm of the gods, the kingdom of the gods. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, fascinating. Okay, now to 10.
10, I'll leave out. And I'll also leave out 11 for now. But 12 is where you'll start to get into the ancients. 12 is the ancients realm.
Okay, let's talk about the ancients.
Okay, so this is where you'll start to get like I said, everything is symbolic to numbers. So when you go to 12, that's 12 beings. Now, there's a number missing here. Well, like I said, it's a 13. It's a total of 13. But when you go to realm 12, a lot of people think that there was a singular being that created this place. What they say is God. That's not true. There are 12, you could say, beings that collectively created the construct game that we experience. And each one of these 12 beings have created each one of the realms, realm 12, 11, all the way down to 1. Each one of them has created a realm. And this is where you'll get into the zodiac symbols as well. So the constellations, everything is connected to 12, the gates, the certain lineage of 12 different beings. 12 beings created this, 12 different cycles, 12, etc., constellations, zodiacs. You see, the 13, this is where we're going to go. Probably burst a little bubble here, but the 13 is the missing month as well. So there's supposed to be 13 months originally.
Right.
And if my memory is correct, it's I hope I'm not saying this incorrectly, but it's 28 days per month. This is where you go into the phases of the moon as well, which is also part of the cycle. Okay.
And I think everybody's pretty comfortable with that notion.
Okay. All right. Great. This is what I also get as well. Once a man retains for a certain period of time, this energy goes back into the claustrum of the brain and stuff like that. So this is why they also have people constantly draining their force, the life force energy, to deplete the physical body to access certain things as well. It's all very much connected. So when you go into the 13th, which is the hidden, the 13th month, the 13th symbol, the 13th sign, this is where you'll get the sign of the serpent per se, 13th lineage, also where part of the Yeshua line comes through, and the light bearer comes through that 13th.
But you also said earlier that the 13th is hidden. So you're talking about kind of the hidden dynamics that bring all of these different essences and realms through.
Yeah, the reason why I say it's hidden is because it's hidden here. It's obviously hidden. The 13th month, the 13th sign.
Right.
It's all has been erased here through history to get people to go on to a false clock, a false dates. It's called April Fools for a reason. So it's hidden in that aspect, but it has always been present, that 13. That's sort of what I'm. Yes.
Okay. And it still keeps begging the question, but who distorted the construct to move us away from the natural, from the container, from the 13, to make it invisible to us, though it appears to be intrinsic to everything? So who manipulated that to the extent that we are so unable to see reality at this point in time in the first realm? And why? I mean, we talked about it earlier, so we could play with what we are not. I mean, like a game.
This is why I said before, I don't want to ever be mistaken for a new age, because I'll say this again, new age is new age propaganda bullshit.
I agree with
Point
you.
blank,
so
period.
yeah,
Right.
It took me a long time to move through a lot of it, so I get it.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Now, and I'm just speaking based off what I was showing, told as well, and also connecting just through understanding of things, through many experiences. To experience that which you're not ends up giving the soul a certain perceptual wisdom that would have never been birthed unless it was experienced. When people use the word master, quotation. So let's just use the word master, and I'm saying quotations master, because everybody is their own master. But in order to be a true master, you would have to have experienced the most harshest environments and experiences in order to have birthed into that. And you could say, in order to understand unconditional love, to truly understand understand it and be in it, even though you are that, but to truly understand why, you would have to have experienced the unlovable things.
And in fact, in Hermetic teachings, there have been various phrases uttered that even the angels bow before a human who has mastered these challenges.
Everything bows to unconditional love. It is a force that is the greatest force in everything. To experience that which we are not, like I said before, gives you that. Now, experiencing that within this, from what I was showing as well, and what I've just explained, there are things that has been unforeseen of the extremes that take place. It's just,
have been manipulated and taken advantage of in the game.
Absolutely.
I hear you, and I get that. I just hate this notion of people calling this a prison planet. I hate it. I hate it. Yes, it can feel like
you're not. Yes, but you, the soul, are not imprisoned. The body, yes. Okay.
Yes, but to create it to create this language, you live on a prison planet, is incredibly it's terrible programming. There's a cruelty to it. There's an unreality to it. But to understand, we have chosen as souls to collectively come here to be able to have the experience of being able to break through and understand unconditional love by being so incredibly challenged, which that, like you said, with that which is not lovable, is a very courageous thing for souls to undertake as a journey.
The souls joining, coming in here, creating this and experiencing this, came in here with a certain level of consciousness. They came in here with a certain level of understanding of where they were at the time, like their just experience. They came in here with that. So once you break free from the imprisonments of fear,
the true prison,
the true prison of fear. That's basically what it is. Once you get past fear, nothing can touch this. It is impossible.
Yes.
But once you go so far into, you could say, the dark of things and the experiences, like I said, that birth is that will birth something within you. You grow to such a state where you are no longer the same once you leave. The closer that you get to truth, the bigger the shadow becomes. A lot of people are so far away from truth, they have an easy life. And even though easy is good, when you get close and closer to the light and truth of things, when you get closer to the source of light, it casts a larger shadow. And people are afraid of the shadow. They get afraid of the shadow, thinking that thing is controlling or has control over them. But the closer you get, the more that you'll see all the distortions.
Would you say that that's where we are as a collective right now? As more people are beginning to awaken to the game, more people are beginning to see through the construct a bit more now than perhaps any time, certainly in modern history, since Atlantean times, perhaps.
Yes. That's the point where everything is coming to. It's all converging. I mean, you could see, I don't necessarily, I mean, a lot of people could say, you're just saying this and stuff like that. But if you look around,
you can see what's happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the wheels are coming off, kind of everything, which is the point before the flip, so to speak. So I ask you this then. Many people speak about the notion that there are infinite numbers of beings that would like to have the experience of incarnate, that there are beings waiting to be able to embody on Earth for this very experience you're talking about, that it is in a way a great offering and privilege to be able to come in to this first level Earth construct and be exposed to all of this and have the opportunity to move through, even if it takes many, many, many lifetimes, move through these challenges to see the pristine nature of unconditional love once again as a master. Is that true from what you've seen? Are there many beings waiting for this experience, or is that not?
In short, yes, there is a certain level, and I don't know how to explain this one other than it is your, you could say, the full memory of who and what you really are, because this experience, when the soul has it based off what I've stated already, it ends up adding to you in a way that is it's by a lot like you are experiencing that which you are not. So once you go back to what people consider home, you could say you become sort of homeless in a sense, because the home that you came from no longer could support your energy, because you are a totally different being.
That makes sense. You are a new creation, your own new creation. And so, and people, I think, can understand from the notion that all of us, virtually every human, has a deep attraction to the hero's journey, which has to go through the darkness and the mire to find their way back to the light. Mission Impossible, even pop film, Mission Impossible, accept the impossible mission and break through to this jubilance on the other side. In really common terms, this is wired into us to break through challenge into a type of triumph. I think everybody feels that. And you're saying that is intrinsic to the earth construct. It's not that way everywhere, right?
Every soul desires to be free because that's their natural state.
Yeah.
You're always free.
Yeah. And so these things are bringing us to the kind of core emotional feeling of what it is to break free. Even if we're just an observer, even if it's a book or a story, this is what we are also attempting to do as human beings. So this brings us to what we were talking about at the very beginning. This earth has a lot of chaos going on right now for purpose, because we are in the process of breaking through. What is it that, if you can give us kind of a condensed version of what is it that you have seen by going to the other side that's lining up for us right now by way of events?
I don't want people to look at me as like, oh, you are, because everybody could leave their body. Everybody has access to do this. But once you leave, you're also accessing things here. This is potentials, not always 100% accurate, but they are potentials. They are seeing what is taking place in real time. There's to be careful with what I say. There has been certain things that I've seen, you could say, in places high up. You go back to one of the do you remember when the whole Chinese bank thing was, the banks were collapsing in China and stuff like that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So back when that was happening, that was almost 2.5 years ago, if my memory is correct. I was actually seeing something that was actually planning that. That was all planned, by the way. It wasn't necessarily all planned.
It was a controlled implosion.
Absolutely controlled.
Yeah.
To put people back in their passive state of fear, all controlled, and also at the same time a tool to trigger people to wake up and see at the most basic foundational level. There are certain things that people will see based off things that I've gotten as well, of information being presented to the people.
So beyond disclosure, what might we be seeing coming down the pike?
It's just a massive amount of, or it's been happening this entire time, but it's going to become more prevalent into the true characters, the information that is being dripped over time, the truth about two and a half years ago, truth about where we are, truth about the contact of races as well, technologies.
We should begin getting a clearer understanding of where a lot of our drip-fed technologies have come, assuming some of it from at least cosmic or off-planet cultures. And beyond that, start getting a true sense of how we've been collaborating, perhaps.
Yeah. And yes, and I also want to be careful, because I don't want to be a 8-ball, but based off what I have accessed, have seen, and the connections that I've made as well, out of body, and also just, you could say, common sense. that things are going to start progressing in a way of information for people to clearly see. A lot of this is a show at the same time. Like you could say a lot of it's a show. It's, actors, scripts, etc. This is where you'll even get a lot of, a lot of people won't understand that, but you'll understand that you'll start seeing a lot of these sports, let's just say NFL, basketball, stuff like that. I'm not really a sports person, so I don't know a lot of things, but a lot of these people get handed scripts to play out a certain role. So it's not true. It's just a role. It's a script that they play to trigger certain things. Same thing that's taking place on a mass scale. It's certain scripts are taking place to trigger certain levels of consciousness to just open their eyes. And like I said, I'm very careful the way that I say this because I know now my words could be misinterpreted towards certain things. Don't treat me like an 8-ball. A lot of the perceived, or you could say a lot of the scripts will start to unfold in a way for the benefit of humanity. That's it.
Excellent. I think I want to end on that note. Let everybody digest everything that they've just heard from you, and then we'll talk again down the road about some of what's happening, because I'm curious. People like me want to know what the constructs outside of Earth are like, because I think some of us have played a hand and visited and been part of constructs outside of the Earth, and so we might want to jingle some of those memories down the road if you're willing to do that with me. Right now, we just focused on our construct of Earth because that's complex enough. So any final thought you would like to say? I love that last bit you left us with, but messaging is going to start coming out that's going to begin opening us back to who we are. I love it. Anything else?
Just constantly make sure that no matter what it is that you do, or individuals do, it's always come from a place of remembering who you actually are. Always coming from that place, understanding the highest aspect of who you are. Because physically, if you just focus on what's taking place physically here, then you are going to miss out on the greater aspect of the reason behind a lot of things. And that's always accessed from, you could say, the other side, the bigger purpose of things, the greater understanding. And this is, and everybody has access to do this too. That's been my number one message this entire time.
Yes.
Is part of the whole, what I was told from my uncle about the great work stuff, waking people up to the other side. And this is not just everybody can leave the body to access that, or access this information. It's not just limited to me. It's not because I'm special, because everybody is the ultimate authority once they truly step back into it.
And you do assist people with this. This is part of your work too, right? Help teach people how they can.
It's been from now of you could say it's a calling to make sure, because I know if I don't share certain information about what I've got, that the pain that I will carry on the other side for not doing so. And that's not necessarily the only reason. It's because that's a big reason. But people need to remember again. So
how do we find you, Darius?
So everything,
besides all over YouTube.
Well, through interviews that people like yourself have me on their show. My website, which you could find more of my mission of that, what I'm doing, DariusJWright.com. But it's just, you'll find me everywhere. Just type in my name right now.
You know what? Yes. And I love the fact that you're on a mission. That's it. You're not trying to sell anything, which is rare. You're not out trying to just pump numbers. You're not all over social media unless somebody else has posted you. I love that you're true to who you are. You are actually here on a mission to help people remember that beautiful soul force that cannot be destroyed by any of this that is appearing to be plaguing us. And I love it. And I thank you so much for just being you, just being true to yourself.
Thank you. And thanks for having me too. I appreciate it. It helps spread it. So.
It does indeed. So everybody again, DariusJWright.com, and you can look all over YouTube where he also speaks with other people like myself. And I think by hearing these things over and over again, we start getting the idea that we are remembering that that's right. That's right. Your thoughts are under your own control. You're choosing not to be in fear is under your own control. And Darius does a beautiful job of helping us remember that. So again, DariusJWright.com. Until next time, thank you for joining us here on ReginaMeredith.com.
If you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. And you might also want to consider joining Patreon, which allows me to keep all of this content free and available to everyone. And if you're looking for like-minded souls, you might also enjoy my online community called Our Neighborhood. Links to join are in the description.